Da 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 da. StitchPunk is a SAQA traveling exhibition juried by Cheryl Sloboda.
Curators have a wonderful job, but it's not always fun. It can be really taxing to put together all the pieces for an excellent exhibit, but this exhibit has been fun from day one. For those of you who may not be familiar with what steampunk is, it's basically science fiction and fantasy mixed up together based on the Victorian beginning of fantasy with Jules Verne, Mary Shelley with Frankenstein, Alice in Wonderland, and include that in the industrialization of the period. So we have a wonderful juror, Cheryl Sloboda, was given the task of the Studio Art Quilt Association call for entry to judge the exhibit or judge the pieces to form a cohesive exhibit, and I think she did a wonderful job. In her juror statement, she talks about biopunk. Biopunk talks about adding mechanical components to human beings. There might be just plain steampunk, where you have a person in a wheelchair that's run by a steam engine, as in the movie The Wild Wild West, where the wheelchair that the villain lives in is run by a steam engine. So we have quilts with mechanical components. We have quilts with fantastical ideas in them. And it has just been so much fun putting this exhibit together. As a curator, I'm not supposed to have favorite pieces, but this piece has just called to me from day one. You will be doing close-ups later, I think, Tara, but every inch of this partial female body is just covered with stuff about sewing. But here's what the artist says about it. Steampunk meets stitchpunk, so you can meet the Greek goddess Minerva. She was the daughter of Metis and Jupiter, born when Vulcan used a hammer to split Jupiter's head. That's an interesting way to look at birth. From the cleft, Minerva emerged whole, adult, and in full battle armor. Minerva is the goddess of crafts and textiles. And so Minerva, for the artist who is Kate Crossley from the United Kingdom, this statue of Minerva is a homage to her mother and grandmother, who were both always ready with a needle or a sewing machine for a last-minute dress emergency, trouser turn-ups, or even a torn, wet horse rug on Christmas morning. So she had wonderfully talented females in her background. And Minerva is just amazing. She has a fan in her back. These are seam rippers and they're button hooks, and she's girded for sewing with her scissors, and she also must write because this is a writing pouch. Her hat is the best though. We have spools of thread, we have a gorgeous pin cushion, and everything that a mechanical sewist would need to do repairs or make something out of whole cloth. Lana Dragon of Martinsburg, West Virginia, made Golf Punk Pump and Popcorn Machine. Try saying that fast 3 times. She's imagining Golf Punk Pump and Popcorn Machine taking a stately stance at the entrance of a futuristic car show. Adults can admire and chat about the vintage-looking gas pump with a low-cost fuel while kids marvel or make popcorn. And the fun part about this is you can just imagine it moving. There are belts and there are gears and there are all kinds of fun stuff, and you can push the button depending on what flavor you want your popcorn. And being a great fan of popcorn, I'm in. Kestrel Michaud is an artist that you need to know if you don't already. I stumbled across her work several years ago when I was putting together the list of quilts that I wanted to invite for an exhibit later this year called Go Figure. Kestrel has a wonderful sense of humor and is an amazing, amazing artist. She uses printed features on the hands and the faces, but everything else is applique, and her drawing and perspective and her imagination are just fantastic. Meet Jason and Rose, who have a pirate ship. Jason is the captain, but Rose, Kestrel tells us, is in charge of the ship. Steampunk often shows human figures with mechanical parts, and Rose has a metal leg, and Jason is holding a raven that has a metal wing. Steampunk has pirates in it too, as well as machines and all kinds of steamy things. That's kind of steamy. Mazaros of Orsay, France, made a mechanical elephant. The mechanical elephant that you see is a fabric and leather and everything else that she could find to put in it version of a real mechanical elephant in her town of Nantes, France. The true elephant there is 12 meters high, 8 meters wide, and weighs 50 tons. It is an articulated machine of rare ingenuity, capable of bearing and waving its trunk, spraying the public, and carrying 49 passengers on a short journey. And the reason we chose to talk about this piece is it goes right to the inspiration by the imaginary machines of Nantes-born Jules Verne and Leonardo da Vinci. Mechanical elephant in 3D. She's using leather, she's using printed fabric, she's using wire. I'm seeing silk, I'm seeing metal, and all kinds of wonderful stuff. And it's just a hoot to look at the different passengers who are having their ride on the mechanical elephant. Mel Dugosh of Hondo, Texas, gives us the atomic trailer punk. Atomic or atom punk is another part of steampunk, and this aesthetic can trace its origins to the atomic laboratory in Los Alamos, New Mexico in the 1940s. From the bomb created by nuclear scientists of the Manhattan Project arose a bright yet bleak futuristic view that endured until the 1960s. Atom punk art is notable for using cheerful retro colors in an animated graphic style. It depicts imagery associated with cherished traditional suburban values, tarnished by flippant, sarcastic undertones of the anticipated nuclear holocaust. So this is what camping is going to look like in the atomic devastation future. I hope not. Linda Mackey Finley from Halifax, Nova Scotia, made a piece titled The Habituation of Mr. Morris. The gentleman in the picture represents William Morris, proponent of the arts and crafts movement, and the artwork in the bottom left is derived from one of Morris's wallpaper designs. The theme is the ever-growing conflict between the purposeful and slow work of the hand and the mass production and industrialization of the 19th and 20th centuries. And what I've noticed in my career of working for the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen and now the New England Quilt Museum, in the history of arts and crafts, in the history of humans, there's always a reaction to whatever is going on. The arts and crafts movement in the I think it's as early as 1870s or 80s, was a reaction to industrialization. And Morris was particularly interested in making sure that hand embroidery and hand weaving became important parts of home dec, for instance, just one feature of what was going on at the time. Steampunk Alice, made by Kathy Knapp of Powell, Ohio, wanted to imagine an older Alice in Wonderland, magically transported into a steampunk Wonderland with an edgy suit and evening bag replacing her traditional apron dress. The reverse features a Victorian-era cameo-like window, including the white hare with his clock and geared heart. Gears, metallic findings, and a deconstructed pendant become the feminine moral motifs. Floral motifs, not moral motifs, creating the movement. Surface design elements are crazy quilt piecing, free motion quilting, hand beading, fabric manipulation, and all kinds of other wonderful stuff. Libby Williamson sent us this from Villa Park, California, as part of the SAQA exhibit. And I have to tell you a little backstory about this. When it arrived, I was also sent a document from SAQA on how to put it together. And I started printing the document, and at page 42, I thought I made a mistake and asked for 2 copies of it. And I'm not being sarcastic, it's so important for an artist to give good instruction on how to put her piece together. The introduction is 7 pages. The how to take it out of its boxes is 18 pages. It has big print and big pictures. Then how to assemble it is even better. And then there's a whole nother set of instructions that's 14 pages on how to repack it. We'll talk about the piece in just a minute, but the other thing that happened, we have the most wonderful volunteers at the museum. We could not do what we do without the volunteers. But at the end of the 2nd or 3rd day of the installation, when you're putting up the last piece, things can get a little punchy. So I'm here with 3 volunteers, and we didn't need Mary except to sit there, and I invited her to be the spectator for the installation. It's a thing, spectating an installation. I had Karen help me put the different parts together, and Patrice was standing here reading the directions. And I said to Patrice, no, you've got that in the wrong order. And we started having an argument about what went where. By the end of it, 45 minutes later, this amazing piece was put together. And you have to know it's a flock of misfit birds forced from their homes, banding together to venture out in search of a new land. We had just taken down, imagine the entire galleries filled with the artwork of some of New England's earliest art quilters, with trees and flowers and just gorgeous representation of nature. And we looked at each other and we went, we have just changed this building completely. And we all started to giggle because we thought it was so much fun. But you have to look at many of the features in this. She has the mother bird, who has, and I'm not supposed to touch it, but I need to turn it so you can see this is a vintage pocket compass. The little bits that she finds for components, that's some sort of roller skate key probably for the hat. She's got a little tiny toy sewing machine in which she's welded a rod that the leg of the bird slips over. These 2 little assistant birds, 1 on each side. Then there is the mother nest, and the nest is actually doing opposite. Instead of the tree bringing the nest along, the nest is bringing the tree along. And she's got wonderful machine quilted components. There's 1 bird looking backwards to make sure that the iron bird doesn't get lost. And some of the other details. This is some sort of little tiny metal funnel. Notice she has a duck cookie cutter on the weather vane. And the other part that I just love is that a couple of the birds have old frosting decorating tips for their beaks. So she's just put together an amazing bunch of stuff, as well as providing a map for the birds.
And spools for the wheels.
Yep.
And that's so fun.
And thread things. And then this is probably a large bobbin for weaving. And she's got it glued on with, again, I'm not supposed to touch, but I will. I'll hold it up. So you can see the different components in the map include zippers, there's writing, there's all sorts of map stuff on it, and it's all held together with a measuring tape. Isn't that fun? Trish Morris Pliss of Nevada City, California, made Phineas. Seahorses are very interesting creatures, she writes. The male seahorse carries and delivers the baby seahorses. Incorporating that fact into my piece, I created a transparent belly that allows for a first-hand view of the babies. With a bit of inspiration from Jules Verne, the gears and mechanical aspects of the main seahorse, Phineas, were a lot of fun to imagine and then translate into this piece. And she, again, is using all sorts of wonderful stuff. We've got typewriter keys. We have little pieces of leather to simulate the gears that are making him move. And we have his belly full of babies with a great hat that says shift key, tabular key, and backspacer. Kathy Neda of El Cajon, California, made Woman version 3.0 and writes, in the future, one can imagine that all women, or those who choose to be so, will have pockets wherever they want them. Yes, pockets. They can give birth or incubate whatever they genetically desire. Cyber engineering could allow one to incorporate technology directly into the body. Can't lose your phone if it's part of you. And I don't know what woman doesn't need a few extra arms in any choice of colors. Part robot, part sentient, genetically modified, still biological, still some version of female, but definitely different and hopefully better. We adapt as needed into what we want to be. Isaac Singer, the time stitcher, is my new boyfriend. He is made by a very creative person called Bruce Rosenbaum, who has a wonderful website called Mod Vic. He's from Palmer, Massachusetts. He loves steampunk and has many machines like this in his collection. He has used all sorts of components. These are vintage arms from a dentist's light. We have actual prosthetic legs from the 19th century, all kinds of gears and bobs and bits, and sewing machines that you will see the video of it running. To him, Isaac Singer is the time stitcher who travels back and forth through time. And I'm not sure why, but that's the idea.